participants. Can we see the participants?
Good, you're unmuted. Participants are up there.
You have a word, you can't see them.
Yeah, we'll get them pulled up.
Oh, maybe I have to do this.
Over there was all of the attendees.
Yeah, but
Pull those over.
what do you mean you pull them?
Remove them from attendee panelists.
Oh, okay. Well, we got to get started here. So. Good morning. I don't know if we can. Good morning, everyone.
Hello.
So welcome to Virtual Coffee with the Mayor. Good to have all of you with us this morning. The way this goes, for those of you who haven't been with us before, this is really just a time for all of you to talk about issues and ask questions about Wildwood. I don't say too much unless you have a question or what have you. So I want to thank you all for being here. And so whoever wants to go first, if you've never been part of a Zoom meeting, if you're on video, if you raise your hand, I'll try to see you, but you can also do a raise hand. If you open the participant window, I believe you can show on that use the raise hand feature, and that'll keep track of who wants to speak, and we'll just try to take them in order. So without anything further, who wants to go first? And of course, don't forget to unmute yourself. So. Morning, Kate.
Morning, Mayor Bolin. Good morning, neighbors. Mayor Bolin, I just wanted to commend you on running such a positive re-election campaign. I want to congratulate you on the overwhelming win and say I'm looking forward to another 4 years of leadership that listens.
Thank you so much, Kate. I appreciate that. And thank you for being part of Wildwood. Les, go ahead.
Morning, Jim. Congratulations on your win. I got a question about, I'm starting up a sign and graphics business in Wildwood, Pacific area. And I have been asked by some of the store owners in Wildwood about helping out with signage. And the question I have, who best is it that I can maybe talk and meet with to discuss the requirements and limitations and so forth in the area?
I think the best person would probably be, to start with, Les, would be Joe Vinich, who's our director of planning.
Okay, good.
Yep, that's with his department.
And then the other thing I'd like to add is I did have, I continue to have, I'm not a big fan of Bays ET. You know that. I've been pretty vocal about it. I did have problems with them after a storm. And I think everybody should be aware that, they do operate a business Monday through Friday. And I know I had a problem over the weekend, and it didn't really seem to, matter. They weren't going to come out and help out until Monday. So they did get it fixed. Still having issues with it, but I'm hoping that as this rural internet access thing moves forward, that, I know Whisper, I don't know how many people here have Whisper and what they think of that company, but I know I haven't had very much luck with Bayes ET, and I'm hoping that we might be able to find a better solution than Bayes ET, to be honest with you.
So I appreciate you mentioning that, Les. Just a couple of things. First of all, we will reach out to the owner of Bayes ET relative to weekend service. You raise a good point. If something happens, to your service on a Friday evening, it would not be good, particularly with the stay-at-home issues that many of you have been dealing with, to have to wait until Monday. So we will do that this morning. The other thing that I would mention for those that may not be aware relative to our rural internet access, just a few weeks ago, Bayes ET was able to, we announced a new program that should reach, according to Bayes ET, roughly 91% of our rural residents. If you have one bar of cell service, they are able to tap into that because of their new contract with AT&T that gives them access to AT&T's towers and therefore the LTE network. And so they rolled that out, I believe, June 1, just a few days ago. They said they can get about 50 people per week online. And so I'm just real happy that we've, I know it may not be, it may not have the upload and download speeds that you get with fiber, but you're certainly going to be able to, watch movies and do your emails and download your PDFs and that sort of thing. So just real happy about that. But thank you, Les. And so we will reach out to Bayes ET about this issue. So, Mr. Evans. I think you're on mute. Yeah, unmute you. So, Mr. Evans, did you want to speak? You're on mute. You have to unmute yourself.
He's unmuted now.
Okay, there you go. Go ahead, Mr. Evans. We're still not hearing him. Is he unmuted? Mr. Evans, it looks like you have an issue with your microphone. We're still not able to hear you.
You can leave him unmuted.
There you go. Oh, I'm sorry. Was that Julian?
Yeah, that's me. We can leave him unmuted and then come back to him.
Okay, we're going to have to come back to you, Mr. Evans. I'm sorry we can't hear you. It looks like there's a technical issue on your side there. Ms. Lowenthal?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that whatever the contractor was who repaved Westland Farms Drive, I just wanted my compliments. I thought they did it as quickly as they possibly could with a minimal disruption. And also I wanted to congratulate you again on being reelected. Thank
you. And thanks for your feedback on that. That's good to know going forward. Todd Bassler.
Morning, Mr. Mayor. Congrats as well as like everybody else. I got a question about if there's been any updates. I haven't talked to Joe in a while about the phase 2, if you will, of our trail system from the community park west. Anything on that? And then as well as if there's any updates with the Missouri Highway Department with the pond intersection and Highway 100.
So I would defer to our city administrator, Sam Ansom, who's with us this morning.
Good morning, Todd. Good to see you. Regarding questions on Community Park, I'll have to confirm with Joe, but I believe phase 3 was sort of the last phase that we had funding for. The next phases are probably going to require, depending on the cost, a vote of residents. So I'll have to double check. If you want to leave me, send me your contact information, I'll be happy to get with Joe and get you some information on that. And then, sorry, on mute still. Your street question was?
Highway 100 and Pond, there was some talk and there was some evaluation. It's been probably well over a year ago. They were monitoring that area since there's a lot of blind spots and a lot of accidents occur there. I know it's not Wildwood's responsibility, but I believe it was the Missouri Department of Transportation, that intersection. But apparently they were doing some testing and evaluating to see if there would ever be a stoplight that goes in there for safety. Are you aware of it?
We have not gotten the results of their report yet. We reached out to them, I think just last week, a week or two ago, to try to get a status on that. And I think the report is in the final stages, but they haven't released it to the public or to us yet.
I got you. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks for the question. Also, just before we go to the next participant, I want to mention that we have Councilmember Joe Garitano with us this morning. He represents Ward 8, which is in the town center area. Joe, good morning. Did you want to say anything?
Yeah, hi, good morning, everyone. Just glad to be here, and congratulations again to you, Mayor. So glad that we all could connect doing this morning. So if there's anything I can help with answering or anything that's Ward 8 related, just let me know. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much, Joe. So who wants to go next?
I think I'm on now. Can you hear me now?
There you go, Mr. Evans. We do. Perfect.
I went to my computer. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
This may be a little silly, but from a fire department background, when you come out of Victoria Crossing towards the first roundabout on the right where they're rebuilding that gazebo, by the little pond right there, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Village Hills Parkway.
Okay. As you know, that some people do like to fly around that corner going up to that roundabout. And the guys who are working construction, 3, 4, sometimes 4 or 5 trucks there, and you can't see them on that corner. There's no flashes, no cones, no nothing. And somebody's going to come around there and see it and then brake. And the guy behind is going to hit him. It's just a thought.
Well, that's a good thought. We will convey that to the contractor and see what they can do about it. Thank you so much for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Who wants to go next?
Jeff Rourke, I have a question. I can't find my raised hand. Sorry.
Oh, that's all right, Mr. Rourke. Go ahead.
In light of what's happening and the issues we've got today, can you talk a little bit about the transparency we have in our police force and how we monitor that and their actions?
Sure.
To remove bad players?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the last part.
To remove bad players.
So, you know, that question in terms of all of the intricacies of it is probably best addressed by our chief. And when we meet in person, we do have an officer with us, but on a virtual, since we've been doing these virtually, we haven't done that. But I'll do my best to answer that question. I appreciate you bringing that up. So first of all, we have, as you may know, a contract with St. Louis County to provide police services to our residents. And in my experience, relative to their performance and from what I see, read about and so forth, other departments throughout the state, municipal departments, you know, I think that they're, I guess, what I would call a cut above. And in the sense that they're very, you know, I think consistently, they seem to be, at least as far as Wildwood is concerned, very professional in the way they handle issues and situations. And I'll just speak personally that from time to time, you know, I do get questions about, you know, something that occurred, a ticket that was issued, and I don't believe it's appropriate for elected officials to become involved in criminal or potentially criminal matters. And so, you know, I hand those off to our chief to address, and without exception, they are all addressed expeditiously and very professionally. Relative to the specifics of your question in terms of, you know, what training and so forth might be there and to remediate any issues from a police officer that would run afoul of those, that's something that I don't personally have the detailed knowledge, but I suspect there is such a program within the St. Louis County Police Department. And I would be happy to take your information and find out specifically and what those are if you want, and get that email to you if you want to shoot me an email, you know, after the meeting, you know, because I don't know specifically in terms of what their internal processes are relative to terminating an officer or requiring additional training or something of that nature. The last thing I would say is we do review that contract with the St. Louis County Police Department on an annual basis. And they've been with us for some time, but that doesn't mean that, we don't look at it every year, because we do. So if there were to be any issues that were to come up, such as, the ones that are implicated by your question, that would certainly be addressed at that point, not before.
I appreciate that. I'll follow it up with an email for some detail, but specifically, just like we audit financial records and there's transparency there, we ought to have that same transparency with our police force. And I'd like to know how to get access to that transparency. So I'll follow up with an email.
Absolutely. Please do that. Yep. Please do that. And we will get that information to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Mayor Boland, can you hear me? It's Claire.
I do. Can I get I have one participant ahead of you, and then we're going to come back to that. Claire, if you'll just bear with me 1 second. Julie Patton.
Good morning, everyone. And I just wanted to circle back to Les and let him know that he's not alone with the Bays ET situation, and that I've had quite a few neighbors recently that have had to replace their routers. So that may be something to start sharing with everyone that's having any kind of challenges with Bays, because that seems to be something that they've pinpointed that can help people that are having a lot of dropped issues and unexplained issues, really. So we're just having to replace a lot of routers and try that.
Thank you for that information.
Congratulations again.
Thank you. Okay, Claire, you're on.
Hey, sorry about that. I don't know how to ask a question on here.
That's all right. We'll get there. We'll get there.
But yeah, thank you. And again, congrats for the win.
Thank you.
So just kind of piggybacking off of Jeff's question, I think if you don't mind, like I can also email you too, but if you don't mind just kind of providing that to everyone. And then also I think what I'm curious about is, what the HR policies are for the Wildwood Police Department, just so that we can take a look and see what they are, see what kind of repercussions, and see also kind of the controls they have in place, and then be able to see like, hey, you have these controls in place, are you guys actually enforcing them? And so that's something that I would be curious about. And then I don't know if the Wildwood Police Department has body cams. And so, because I think that would actually like protect the police officers and protect the citizens. So yeah, I think just, like Jeff, just kind of the transparency so we can kind of take a look and see everything that we have available here.
Great point. And the officers do have body cams that serve Wildwood. So that is in place.
Thanks. And so like, I think kind of like on top of that question is, okay, do they have any policies on that? And what officers are actually like turning them on when they're supposed to turn them on, and what's the repercussion when they don't turn them on, and who's reviewing that they're actually doing what they're supposed to do. So that data would be interesting to see.
Okay, sure. Great questions. Okay, we have a question, just Karen, give me just 1 second here. We have a question in chat, which is, how is Wildwood showing they stand for the African-American community? What systems or training is in place to help our community members feel safe and included? So let me just say, first of all, I'll address that in a couple of ways. First of all, relative to everyone in our community, we have 35,517 residents. I said this throughout my campaign. I actually have said this pretty much since day one of becoming mayor. Each one of our residents means an equal amount to me, and I do as much as I possibly can to make certain that every single one of our residents, regardless of their background, where they lived previously or what have you, is treated equally and fairly. And we do that in all of our meetings and so forth. So that's something that is very important to me. And I feel like we've come a long way in terms of doing that with respect to all of our residents. And I think the second thing I would mention of my 2 points relative to the systems and training, I think that's encompassed by the the questions we got from Mr. Rourke and Claire. And so this question from Robin, if you want to shoot me an email, we'll also get that information that we're going to provide to them to you as well, relative to the transparency and making sure that everyone feels included. And thank you for that question. Karen?
So we just want to tell you congratulations. Say congratulations. Say. Riley wanted to say congratulations, Mayor, for your reelection.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Joe Garritano, Councilmember Garritano.
Sure, yeah, and thanks again. I guess this is more for Rick Brown because it pertains to the Route 109 improvements project. That's the work that we have seen take place for the past several months south of 100. The two new roundabouts, the widening of the bridge, and it looks like the work is complete. So Rick, is there anything else left over there, or you know, are we official to cut the ribbon on that new project? Because it just looks really great there. They did a fantastic job from what I could see.
Councilmember Garritano, appreciate the comments. Project is by and large complete at this point. Maybe some minor corrections that the contractor has to complete before they finalize their agreement with MoDOT, but it's by and large complete. So if there's interest in ribbon cutting, let me know and we can pursue that with MoDOT.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks for the question, Joe. We have another question, Rick. This is going to be for you. That's in our chat window. This resident, Ms. LeBou, says she's a new resident and in the process of moving to a home on Thunderhead Canyon, which backs up to a retention pond. And her question is there any money in the city's budget for cleaning the pond, such as removing dead trees in the water?
Well, those retention ponds are typically the responsibility of the subdivision or the property owner on which they reside. So those responsibilities usually come from the HOA. So if there's a specific concern, we can certainly follow up and help address that by contacting that HOA if that is indeed the case. I guess I would offer if there's a specific concern, they can reach out to us and we can follow up. And
so we have a list of the trustees. We try to keep it as current as possible of trustees of the subdivisions throughout our city. And so Ms. LeBou, if you want to email Rick Brown, he's going to give you his email address here in just a second. If you want to email him with your specific, with your address, and if you know the name of your subdivision, that would help. And we can then, Rick can get you the names of, according to our records at least, hopefully it's current, the last the current subdivision trustees that would be good for you to reach out to. So Rick, you want to give her your email address?
Sure, it's just quite simply rick@cityofwildwood.com, RICK @cityofwildwood.com.
Okay, and Julian has put that in the chat window. We have another question in the chat window. We'd like to know what is being done about the deer and how are we controlling the population. So I know that our Board of Public Safety is looking at that important issue, and we do have a lot of them. And they are presenting issues, and particularly safety issues and so forth. And we've been studying, I think we just did a survey on this. And so Rick, your liaison to our Board of Public Safety, I'm going to ask you to please answer this one as well.
Sure, Mr. Mayor. As you referenced, this is in front of the Board of Public Safety. There was a subcommittee of the board formed last year to take a crack at the ongoing issue of deer and wildwood, and the goal is to develop a deer management plan. And we're getting close actually to having that document prepared for review and consideration. And ultimately, the city council will see that document. At least that's my thought. Will be that the city council will actually review that management plan. So that's getting close. I would hope that will come forward out of Board of Public Safety potentially next month. If not, then hopefully by August.
Okay, thank you. And back to the subdivision question that we had from Ms. LeBou, our city administrator in the chat window posted a link to the list of all of our subdivision trustees throughout the city if you want to get that. We also had a question, Rick, this is going to be for you from Mr. Evans. Relative to 109 north of Manchester, he has, north of Highway 100 Manchester, he wants to know, are there any plans to widen that?
Well, the next improvement I think is on the forefront. We were notified just recently that we were successful in getting federal funding for a new roundabout on Highway 109 at Route BA South Junction. So that was a project that the city has submitted applications for federal funding several times. This time we were successful. So that project should move forward. The one downside with the federal funds is they are programmed on a 3-year window. So the construction of that project is still a few years away. But the good news is we have got federal funding. The federal funding will account for 80% of the cost to design and build that project. So it's a nice win after several attempts to get the funding.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Just seeing if we have any more questions in the chat window. We don't. Anyone else have a question? Who wants to go next? Yes, Ms. Beeman. You unmute.
Okay, hear
There
me?
you go.
All right. I actually did put something in the chat room, but that's okay. I want to know who our new landscaping company is. They were slow at the beginning to cut the grass in the common areas, and I know people were wondering. But now they've done a great job at the corner of West Glen Farms and Thunderhead Canyon. In fact, I was surprised they put in so many flowers, and they're still there. The deer haven't eaten them. And then my second question, so first was about the landscaping company, and second, can these sessions be recorded so we can review them later?
So on your first question, Rick, do you want to answer that? And then I'll answer the second question.
Well, I think maybe I should clarify. I think I heard you say West Glen Farms and Thunderhead Canyon. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, so that location would not be handled by the city. I believe that would be handled by the HOA. So areas that are landscaped in that vicinity are not maintained by the city. We do maintain some of the landscaping at 100 and West Glen Farms at that intersection, but not,
okay.
not in West Glen Farms.
Okay, I didn't realize it was a different company for the different subdivisions. I thought if you're Wildwood, you're Wildwood.
It really depends. We do not maintain, a lot of those areas are common ground areas, so they are maintained by the individual subdivision HOAs. And that's why this isn't necessarily maintaining them.
Oh, okay, okay. News to me. Okay, great.
And relative to your first question about recording these so that others can watch, these are recorded. So we do that, and it's on our YouTube channel if you want to watch those after the fact.
Oh, that's where it is. Okay, YouTube channel. Now people ask me, well, what did they talk about? And I'm making a point to take notes, but I'd rather have them just look. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it looks like we have another question in the chat window. Does the city maintain the medians on Strecker Road south of Clayton? I believe we do. Rick Brown, another question for you there.
Those, yes, Mr. Mayor, we do maintain those median islands on Strecker Road south of Clayton Road. That's correct. Yep.
And I think we've made some landscaping improvements to those recently, have we not, Rick?
Well, we're doing our best to keep an eye on them and making sure they look decent. It's always a struggle in some of those spots. They're not always the easiest to grow plants, unfortunately, and they've got a lot of deer or cars that might run over things. So it's always a challenge, but we're doing our best. And
Yeah, thank you.
Don't feel free to reach out and let us know if you see something that needs some attention.
All right, great questions. We always have lots of public improvement questions at Coffee with the Mayor. So it's good to have Rick here so we can get an answer firsthand on those things. Anyone else? All right, no other questions, issues? No hands. Okay. Well, thanks to each one of you for joining us this morning. Just to give you a heads up, I'm going to be looking at starting in July, having these back to an in-person format. My plan at this point is to keep the virtual aspect of it because it's been relatively successful. And if some of you are out of town or just want to stay home, that's fine. You can do that. So we're going to probably keep that as a feature. But I think in July, we're going to also have the option for coming back in person at City Hall. And just so you know, I'm sitting here with our city administrator. I still do these from City Hall. So we're going to bring that back starting in July, obviously with what we need to do relative to social distancing and so forth. So be looking for that. And again, thanks to each one of you that's an opportune question. We just had a question from Mr. Evans. When do we expect to meet in person again? So we were thinking along the same lines. That was in the chat window there. So we got that one answered. And so if there's nothing further, thanks to each one of you for being part of Wildwood. Thanks for being here this morning. And I look forward to talking with you again. And on the emails we need for follow-up, just please don't forget to do that so we can get the information that was asked relative to our police and the transparency, and we'll get that to you. And thanks to each one of you. Have a great rest of the week and a terrific weekend.